We're both 20F and we've been friends since reception. 4 to 5 years old, UK thing. She was my sister, my rock, we stood by each other through everything. When my parents divorced, she was there to offer a shoulder for me to cry on. When her grandmother died, I was there keeping her afloat throughout high school. I'd been dating my boyfriend, 21M, for about 3 years. We started dating in 6th form, a version of UK college, and he was my first serious relationship. I introduced him to my family, he was many of my firsts. He was sweet, a little awkward being a gamer guy, but he treated me to date nights and always made me feel special. Maybe this is me being young and dumb, but I thought I'd marry this guy someday. This was something I told my best friend. Well, about a month ago while my boyfriend was in the shower, I saw a text notification pop up on his phone. We look at each other's notifications all the time, so I grabbed his phone to see it. It was from her, asking if they were still on for tonight and if she should wear his favorite dress. He told me he was hanging out with friends and going drinking. Him going drinking with friends wasn't unusual, so I never thought anything of it. But in hindsight, I wonder how much of him going out was with friends and how much of it was going out with her. I saved screenshots of their conversations. I sent them to myself. I show him the messages when he came out of the bathroom and demanded he explained himself about them. I couldn't contain how upset and angry and hurt I was. An argument ensued where I told him he was disgusting and I left his place. Shortly after arriving home, I started getting bombarded with calls and texts from my best friend. I answered none of her calls. I couldn't stomach hearing her voice, but her texts ranged from, "She never meant to hurt me. My boyfriend hit on her first. It didn't mean anything." Then it got angry, saying I should hear her out. If I was a real friend, I would take her calls. I'm being petty and childish for not listening to her side. Then back to sad, saying I was her closest friend in the world and she didn't want to lose me. My boyfriend was strangely quiet during this time. After a few days, I got myself together enough to send them both messages. Maybe it was cowardly, but I didn't have the strength to call them. I told my now ex-boyfriend that we were done and I won't give cheaters any chances with me. He responded by trying to call me, but after the 3rd or 4th attempt, he gave up. He sent me a final message saying it wasn't that big of a deal, that they just fooled around, but agreeing he didn't want to date me anymore. My ex-best friend was more persistent after I told her I wanted nothing to do with her. Day after day I'd get messages and calls from her. Demanding to talk. Demanding we resolve this. Demanding I not say anything to anyone. Saying she stopped seeing him. Saying she'll kill herself if I don't talk to her. Really fucked up shit. I ended up confiding to a mutual friend about what was going on because I was seriously beginning to wonder if I was being a bitch. This friend reassured me that my feelings were justified. However, I wasn't expecting this friend to spread around what happened. The gossip spread like wildfire, and a few days ago my ex-best friend tried to take her life. I said nothing. I haven't visited her in the hospital. I haven't sent any messages to her family. Now her older sister keeps messaging me, telling me I'm a heartless bitch for leaving her at her lowest, for not trying to prevent this, and that everyone makes mistakes, and that her sister didn't intentionally hurt me. Maybe it does make me a heartless bitch, but I don't care. I'm relieved she survived, but I'll never forgive her. I'll never forgive her betrayal. She destroyed our friendship when she slept with my boyfriend. Update 1. In hindsight, I know now I wasn't being a bitch, but in the moment when I was being bombarded by texts and calls from her family, it's hard not to let those thoughts mess with your head. I didn't know if I was going to post an update, but some things have happened, so this might get a little long. Sorry. Giving fake names. Ex-BFF is Nikki. Her older sister is Tammy. Ex-BF is Josh. I'll name anyone relevant as I go. So I mentioned in a comment that my mom wanted to speak to me later that day. I had a few replies warning me that she would try to pressure me into forgiving Nikki, and they were right. She came over to my dad's that evening and wanted a conversation in private. She asked if I'd spoken to Nikki yet. I said no. She asked if I was going to. I said no. I was trying to be as firm as possible because I knew what she was about to do. She asked, "Don't you think you should?" My response was, "No. I don't see why I should." I sent her a final message almost a month ago. This is where things began to really go south in the conversation. "Mom, love, she's in the hospital right now. She needs all the support she can get. You're meant to be her friend." I didn't even know about her condition until her mother called me. Me? Really? I'm meant to be her friend after she slept with Josh behind my back? I didn't say anything about her because I didn't want to talk about her. "Mom, are you really going to onto a silly grudge? I understand she hurt you, but she's hurting so much more right now, love." Me? She's hurting? Mom, yes, you both are. I raised you to be a kind, forgiving person. Why can't you forgive her? Me? What? Like how Dad should have forgiven you? This wasn't my finest moment. I didn't bring it up before because it wasn't relevant, but the reason why my parents divorced was due to infidelity on Mom's end. And it wasn't only a one-time thing, not that it matters even if it had been, but my mom always believed Dad should have just forgiven her. I admit this was a low blow for me, and the conversation spiraled into an argument from there, with both of us saying some not so kind things to each other. Eventually I decided the conversation was over because we were just going around in circles and heading into yelling territory, so I told her to leave and I'll try talking to her again when we've both calmed down. When she was leaving, she said this: "I hope you're not as cruel as your father." I'm typically not an angry person, but this infuriated and hurt me. I lived 50-50 between my parents. They both made sure I had everything I could need or want, but she felt her situation and struggles were undeserved. Dad never helped with bills or payments that didn't involve me. She expected more. Cheaters always do. I didn't say anything when she left, I just blocked her number and social media accounts and cried. She cared more about the girl who had hurt her daughter than said daughter. She realized pretty quick what had happened and came back the next day, but Dad told her I didn't want to talk to her. True, and she had to leave. It took maybe half an hour before she finally left. The new few days she kept trying to reach me through other people, but I stayed silent. The Friday after my post, I decided I felt calm enough to talk to her and unblocked her. We spoke over the phone, which wasn't as exciting as above. Basically it was her apologizing and telling me she was wrong for trying to force me to forgive Nikki, that she'll respect my decision, but tried to suggest I think about it. I very firmly told her I was not forgiving Nikki. She just said okay. Things didn't really feel the same with us. I couldn't bring myself to be as chatty with her as I was before, and it didn't help that she kept giving me updates about Nikki. The first time she did it, she told me Nikki had been put on a 72-hour psych hold, assessed and eventually released. I told her I didn't want any updates on Nikki's situation. I won't stop her from checking in, but I didn't want to be involved. She complained and said she thought I'd want to visit her, but I threatened to block her again if she kept pushing, and she shut up. Nothing was mentioned about Nikki for a couple of weeks before Mom again broke my boundary and brought her up, telling me about how Josh had stopped talking to her and how Nikki needed a shoulder to cry on. I again told her I didn't want to know, and this was her last chance not to bring her up or I would cut her from my life. She complained again, but eventually promised it wouldn't happen again. Maybe I should have learned from my mistakes, because I know my mother. She doesn't take no for an answer. It was really quiet for a while. My friends and I had all basically carried on from what happened, and even though I know a couple of them still occasionally talk to Nikki, they never bring her up around me or tell her, I hope, how I'm doing. I thought I could finally close this chapter on my life, but nope. Today my mother called me and asked if I wanted to get lunch. I hadn't seen her in a while, so what was the harm? I head to the Weatherspoons we plan to eat at, and who do I find sitting with my mom? Nikki and her sister, Tammy. As soon as Nikki sees me, she gets up and tries to hug me, but I just raise a hand and take a step back, and this girl has the audacity to look upset. Mom immediately knows she's fucked up because she's scrambling with all of the excuses. It hurts to see you two fall apart like this, you were so close. I thought you'd forgive her by now. And my favorite, she made a mistake, she misses you. During this time, Nikki has been quiet and I can see Tammy's glaring at me. I'm just so fucking angry and upset. I honestly didn't think she'd pull something like this. I wanted to leave and cry, but I looked at Nikki and said, for someone who's made a mistake, she sure hasn't apologized for it, yet. She had this guilty look on her face and muttered something about me having her blocked and having no way to. I said, is that really all you have to say? And she just looked at me confused. I was done. I turned to leave and her sister started yelling after me, saying that I owed Nikki a second chance with all the trauma I put her through. While Nikki was begging me to just listen to her and talk to her. I told them all to fuck off and never contact me again and left. I managed to get out of there before Tammy started a fight and went home, where I sent my mom a text a while ago telling her she'd better lose my number because she no longer has a spot in my life. Then I blocked her and just cried. My dad's been doing his best to comfort me, but it just hurts so bad that my own mother did this to me. So that's where things are at right now. Update 2. I'm the girl who made the my ex-best friend attempted to take her life posts. I didn't think labeling this post like that really fit. I first want to apologize for taking so long to give you an update, and to also thank you for your kind words. I've not been able to reply to many messages, and I've had a lot, but I've taken the time to read through every single one, and I appreciate every single one of you. This Christmas has been amazing. I spent it with my family, with my dad. I went out Boxing Day night with my friends to party hard and regret it harder the following day. I'm in a much better place than I was back in December 2023. That's kind of why I struggled to give you all an update, because around Christmas plus New Year's 2023, I was not in a good place. I really needed to focus on myself and work on getting myself in a better place. As of January 2024, I've been no contact with my mother. Unfortunately, I've seen her since then, and I've done my best to avoid talking to her in the 3 occasions I've had to be in the same place as her. Not out of choice, mind you, but it is what it is. During Christmas 2023, she had expected that I was spending it with her and her side of the family. Given the events at that time, this was obviously not happening, and my dad told her as much. She lost her mind. She refused to take no as an answer leading up to Christmas. To the point Dad and I left for my paternal aunt's house on Christmas Eve to spend the night there. According to a neighbor, my birth giver showed up pretty early in the morning to catch us leaving, but was irate to learn we already weren't there. Thankfully, my aunt had moved house quite recently, so my mother didn't know the new address. But we came home to parcels completely destroyed on our porch the following Boxing Day. There was even Christmas card labeled to me, but inside was a horrible letter from my mother, describing me as the worst daughter on the planet. That honestly destroyed me and I spent New Year's a mess. It's difficult cutting off your own mother. I spent half of January 2024 trying to fix things with her, but it came to a head when I realized I was the only one forced to compromise. I finally cut off contact, and it's been that way since. There's been more between then and now, but I think those are incidents I'll post on my Reddit page or in the comments of this post to prevent it from getting too long. In terms of Nikki, I've heard she's doing better. We've not spoken since my mother's lunch escapade, but she's found a job and according to a mutual friend, found a new circle. Despite everything that she's put me through, I'm happy for her. It's almost 2 a.m. here in the UK, so if I suddenly stop responding to comments, I've fallen asleep. Now on to second story. Best friend's husband called my husband an a-shole for delivering tacos, sparking a bizarre feud and neighborhood drama. I'm writing this post because my best friends, Kate, husband, Bert, called my husband, Tim, an asshole. I have historically kept my opinion of Bert's behavior to a minimum on the grounds that good friends say their piece once and then love each other through shit relationships. But I'm asking internet strangers to be the judge. I am traveling for work. Kate is stuck at home, working, at 7 months pregnant on modified bed rest. Generally during the week I drop over once or twice to bring her family some dinner. Tim cooks extra portions once a week to share, cheer her up, read her oldest a couple of bedtime stories so that mom can go to bed early and get some sleep. Bert works an office job. Stressful, I'm sure, but during her pregnancy he's been working longer and longer hours, salaried, not overtime. She's been sad and a bit lonely. Yes, I've suggested counseling. With that for background, this evening she and I were texting. It was about 6-ish, and she got a craving for a taco place near my house and, importantly, near Bert's office. She says she asked him to grab her some on his way home. He says he's not stopping. He's got work at home and she should just DoorDash something close. This makes her extremely sad, she says irrationally sad, but you be the judge, because he used to surprise her with her favorite tacos and now he can't be bothered. As one does, I tell Tim. I'm 3 states away, so it was just part of our chat as I was getting back to the hotel and getting ready for a work dinner. I get back from dinner and Tim had gone and picked her up tacos, remember the bag of things I'd collected for her and the kid that were in my car, and pulled a tuna casserole from the freezer. Bert hates tuna casserole. He dropped them off on the porch and just texted her that there were some things I wanted her to have. Then Bert gets home. Did he bring tacos, coloring books or a good attitude? No, he did not. He called Tim to tell him that he was an asshole for showing him up. Other colorful language was also used, including some fairly sexist nonsense. He also texted me telling me to keep my husband away from his wife. Tim did respond rudely when Bert called. Kate says he told Bert he was a failure as a human, a man, a father and a husband. Apparently that caused Bert to scream expletives so loud their daughter started to cry. Not good. Tim then hung up on Bert, blocked him, and texted Kate that if she needed someone in an emergency she knew where to call, but he wasn't putting up with her shit husband any longer. It's a giant cluster and I have no idea what's going to happen. My husband feels bad things escalated so much, particularly since their daughter was crying. He feels like an asshole at the moment. Obviously Bert thinks he's an asshole. I think he's a sweet man. What do you guys think? Update 1, not a happy update. The TLDR version is they are separating for unrelated reasons. 1, I apologize for screwing up the title last time. I was trying to be brief and wound up being wildly disappointing. My apologies. Hopefully this is more effective. 2, this update is shared with Kate and Tim's permission. For reasons, Bert can go fuck himself. Bert did email Tim this morning to apologize. Bert said he had forgotten I was out of town and he didn't realize that Tim was dropping off the meal, train food. It was a weird email for many reasons, but Tim responded politely if non-committal. Tim hasn't changed his view of Bert in part because of what happened between Bert and Kate this afternoon. Bert also texted me to apologize, but I didn't get his message until after I landed and by then everything else had happened. I've elected not to respond. Bert went home around noon after staying at a hotel last night. Kate's sister had taken their daughter to the park so Bert and Kate could talk it out. Short version is that Bert has been avoiding Kate because she's not happy during this pregnancy. I mentioned in a comment that Kate had been married previously and shortly after her first husband died she had complications in a pregnancy that forced her on bed rest. Unfortunately, her son didn't make it. Her current pregnancy is bringing up a lot of painful memories and she's scared she won't be able to make it to full term. So, yes. She's not as cheery as she was when she was pregnant with their daughter. It's a difficult time. Bert is frustrated and angry that she's not happy, so he's been staying late and ignoring her until she stops doing that. I know that sounds horrid, but I think they could have worked through those feelings. But as he was explaining how he felt, he said she should be glad her son wasn't there because otherwise she wouldn't have this life at all. Yeah, that still knocks the wind out of me, it's so cruel. She did talk to him about that statement, but the explanation doesn't get better. In any event, for her that was just the end. She told him she was done, they can work out joint custody, but the marriage was over. She called her sister and she and her husband encouraged Bert to leave. Currently, Kate's not angry or sad or panicked. She's just done. Personally, I'm surprised since they've weathered some fairly shitty things including infidelity by him. But I guess that was the line? In any event, her D&D friends are over there for Saturday games night and they are eating waffles. She thought it was important for the internet to know that waffles are appropriate separation food. In terms of her well-being, which many kind souls were worried about, they have a prenup. The house is hers, his family property is his. I'm sure there will be a fight over custody, but she will be financially okay. In any event, she has family and friends who will help and support regardless of what happens. Update 2. Holiday update. I guess whether you think this is a happy update depends on whether assholes abandoning their kids is a net positive or not. Prior post, Kate and Bert are still separated. It took her a few weeks, but she finally spoke to her attorney and asked them to start the paperwork. One problem has been locating him for service and scheduling parenting time so it wouldn't appear that she is withholding his child. The night he was escorted out, he apparently went to a hotel, then told his boss he had to work remotely. Where the fuck was that option? And then moved home to his mother. Kate has reached out to him multiple times to schedule parenting time and only found out last week that he wasn't in the state. She finally called his mom to see if she wanted to come and see her grandchild for Thanksgiving and learned that he was there the entire time. In any event, they finally made a parenting schedule and, at her attorney's suggestion, agreed he could have the first holiday since the separation. He was supposed to come down on Wednesday and pick up their daughter for a few days so she could spend time with his side of the family. So we planned a Friendsgiving to keep her spirits up since her little one would be away for the first time. Fun? Not fun, but it's what families do. Anyway, he didn't show. Thursday morning, still no Bert. Kate was worried since he was supposed to drive down, so she called his mom again. Bert was fine, but didn't feel up to dealing with this. Yup. Heard it myself with my own 2 ears. Kiddo was thankfully still asleep, so she did have the joy of watching her mom have a complete and utterly meltdown. Kate didn't have the greatest childhood herself, and knowing her boss husband was completely indifferent to his daughter was just too much. She was sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe and then started to have contractions. Then her sister and I started panicking. Had we been thinking clearly, we probably would have remembered that she had BH with both pregnancies and calmly assessed the situation after she wasn't so overwrought. Instead, I panic dialed her OB and we rushed her to the hospital. She's fine. Baby is fine. Kiddo has now more screen time and junk food in 2 days than her mother has let her have in her entire life, because I am not a great babysitter. Kate will be in the hospital for a few more days as her OB is concerned with her stress levels. Her sister's husband called Bert, but thus far he has not made any attempts to do something useful, like I don't know, take care of his own child? So I guess there won't be a fight over custody? A shitty update, but it's been a shitty weekend. If anyone knows how to cheer up a little girl who is missing her parents that doesn't involve McDonald's and Bluey, please let me know. If there were still Toys R Us, I'd probably be bankrupt. Update 3. On the less good news, Kate is going to be in the hospital for the duration. She and the baby are fine, but due to some complications they want her to stay there until she delivers. Kiddo is staying with us until tomorrow. We live close to the hospital, but she'll be heading back to sister's place, which is close to her preschool, tomorrow night. Kate wants her to have as much normalcy as feasible. I'm still worried, but the doctors are great and seem to have it under control. Update 4. It's a boy. I don't know if anyone still cares, but Kate safely delivered a perfectly healthy little boy on Thursday and is now back home. Her sister's was by her side and it all went fairly quickly after she was induced. Bert is still MIA. Last we heard he was in Alaska with his brother. Kate's lawyer has been managing communications to keep the evidence trail as pristine as possible. He has been served, but of course these things take time. The little one asks about her dad every single day and it breaks my heart, but I guess there's no help for that. We are following the therapist's advice, and legal advice, on that subject. I think it will get easier now her mom is finally home. On the home front, Kate is thrilled to be out of the hospital. We have all huddled up for a plan to help her over the next few months while she recovers. I'm on duty today, but everyone is currently napping so it's quiet and peaceful. She asked for tacos so Tim is making a taco run for lunch in an hour or so. I probably won't update again, but I did want folks to know she and her son made it through with flying colors.